Hi, everyone, and welcome to another parenting perspective. This podcast talks about ways we can strengthen the parent child relationship through the process of parental evolution. I hope this podcast supports you as you go along parenting. In this week's episode, I share my life and my journey towards parental evolution. Just thought it's time for you to know me. I am Smriti Gopal. I was born and raised in Bangalore, India. I studied in Bangalore through school and college, staying in the comfort of my home and sheltered by my parents until I got married at the age of 22. And ours was an arranged marriage, which means our parents introduced us. We got engaged after briefly speaking to each other for a few minutes, and we got married all in a jiffy. I so wanted to be a mother even from when I was a child. I almost feel this was a calling more than a conditioning. Our first daughter came into our lives shortly after my husband and I got married. After 4 years, our second daughter entered our world. We are a happy family. My daughters are 27 and 24 now. My husband and I are happily married. However, I can't deny that we have our share of hurdles that we cross moment by moment. The lessons I learned from these hurdles and the hurdles that were coming up when we were raising our two girls is the reason for the work I do and for this podcast. So let's start with my childhood. A chubby, cute baby with radiant eyes and a warm smile. I am the middle child sandwiched between an older brother and a younger sister. I've had a very sheltered childhood. My parents have been very loving and have fulfilled every wish that I might have. However, they came with their own childhood baggages, which made Appa, my father, rigid, controlling, and aggressive, and Amma, my mother, a bleeding empath, a people pleaser. If we track back, their childhood also had well-intentioned yet unconscious at different level parents. And this is so true for all of us, isn't it? There were bursts of anger, episodes of crying, fear, and unconscious actions and words arising from unconscious minds. And there were feelings of not being seen, heard, understood in the way we children wanted to be seen, heard, understood. I judged my mother for not being strong and speaking up, and my dad for not being flexible and for being so aggressive. Until recently, when I understood that they were doing the best they could at that moment. I think seeing my mom being a people pleaser in a way made me the opposite of that. It made me very rigid and setting electrifying boundaries, which eventually started hurting me and my family. My brother was born into this environment first and had developed a coping mechanism for himself, which added to the situation when I was born into the family. My sister, I think, had a collection of unconsciousness to deal with between my parents and us siblings with our strong coping mechanisms by the time she entered the family. Anyway, that's a story for her to tell. Growing up, I felt very secure and taken care of. The situation at home was mostly respectful and loving, and I'm extremely grateful to my parents for that. There were times when the environment would turn into a not so pleasant environment with my parents repeating patterns and projecting their feelings of emptiness within them onto us. I guess I picked this up as a young child, and from when I can remember, I have been in fear, and as a coping mechanism of this fear, I became firm, rigid, and controlling. I guess that was my way of taking control of things when they seemed out of control in childhood. Anxiety has been my companion ever since. The cultural conditioning was strong too, and I was brought up with religious beliefs. The cultural conditioning instilled deep-rooted belief systems, and the religious beliefs helped them get stronger. The fear of God was something that I had to look into very deeply as an adult. I grew up to be a rigid, controlling, and fearful adult with a whole lot of belief systems. Now, into this stepped my husband. His experiences in life are for him to tell, but he surely came into this marriage with more flexibility and lesser belief systems than I had. However, he had his own disconnect with his feelings. Now, I may be projecting. I wanted to have children so badly that I forgot I need to know and understand the father of my children before we can go about having children. I was keen on having children early, and my husband was submissive, and our children came into our lives. They were welcomed with love. As you can imagine, I was in seventh heaven on being a mother. They brought lots of love and joy into our lives. Throughout their childhood, my husband and I had ups and downs in our relationship, but deep down we both wanted to make it work. These ups and downs have had an effect on both our girls. Seeing this effect on the girls and seeing them not being who they truly are and enjoying life to their fullest compelled me to do something about it. This is where my inward journey began. When my younger daughter was 2, I decided to learn more about the Montessori method. Going through the training, being a Montessori guide, opened me up to ways in which our house environment was not the best for the holistic development of our girls. It somehow inhibited their true unfolding. As I continued to learn, layers started peeling off. I saw how my ways of being were suffocating my girls and learned, reflected, and let go. This cycle of learning, reflecting, and letting go is an endless one, especially for me, as I had so many belief systems to debunk, patterns to break, and parts to integrate. Things were going on well until my first daughter, entered adolescence. I again hit a roadblock. This was because the Montessori method had helped us raise them to think and be themselves, and that was exactly what they were doing. However, their new way of thinking was making me question my belief systems, and that was making my ego very uncomfortable. I was unable to see their perspective. My children were showing a mirror and asking me to look deeply into it, and it was very hard for me. Luckily, this is exactly when the conscious parenting method showed up in my life. Taking the conscious parenting method training to be a conscious parenting coach myself opened me up even more. It showed me how my relationship with my husband, which I had been pushing under the carpet, was crucial for the well-being of my children. And looking deeply into this relationship opened another Pandora's box, my relationship with myself. My parenting journey continues to help me grow into myself each moment, which is true for all parenting journeys. Remember that chubby, cute baby with radiant eyes? Well, she was lost on the way. I had to go on a deep search and find her. Finding her has made all the difference with my relationship with my husband, my daughters, my parents, my siblings, and in fact, every being I meet. This experience has reinforced the requirement for conscious parenting, which is parental evolution. It is almost impossible to have a meaningful parent-child relationship without parents having gone on an inward journey with a willingness to discover who they truly are. So here I am, sharing with you all that I learned from the mistakes I made. This does not mean that I want to take away from you your own experience of learning from your mistakes. That path is uniquely yours. There are enough and more mistakes to make and learn from. I'm just sharing my experience through the seasons of my life as my children moved from stage to stage, for you to know that you are not alone on this arduous but magical journey. I also want you to know that parental evolution will not only bring a healthy parent-child relationship, but most importantly, it will introduce you to who you are and therefore will help you to authentically show up in alignment with your now, moment by moment. So So here's my invitation for you to step into this journey of evolution and growth. This journey of evolution and growth is not pleasant always and is not an easy one to take. However, it is the most satisfying, fulfilling, and meaningful journey we can take in our lives as a human being. I will continue sharing my experiences of parental evolution through this podcast and in other areas. I hope you will continue listening, and if what you just heard touched you, please share it. You can follow me at Smriti Gopal on Instagram, on the Facebook page Formative Age or Equanimous Coaching. You can find out more about the work I do at www.formativeage.in and www.equanimouscoaching.com. Until next week, take that most needed pause to keep a check on the parental ego and stay present and alive to discoveries. Thank you and bye-bye.